Welcome to City Connection. It's Monday, August 3rd, 2026, and I'm your host, Darius Colquitt, filling in for Rapidian Program Manager, Allison Donahue, this month. Brought to you by the Grand Rapids Community Media Center. This live program connects you directly with our city officials, giving you the chance to hear the latest local news and ask questions about the issues that matter most to you. Joining us later on in the show today is First Ward Commissioner Alicia Marie Belchick. But first, let's go through some of the latest updates from around Grand Rapids. The midterm primary election is tomorrow, August 4th, Grand Rapids. Do you know where you're voting? Do you? Your precinct or polling location may have changed since the last election. In April 2025, the City Commission voted to reduce the number of precincts from 74 down to 59 after Michigan law raised the maximum precinct size from 2,999 to 4,999 active registered voters. Residents in all three wards are affected, with the third ward seeing the most change. Before heading to the polls, check your local polling location through the Michigan Voter Information Center at michigan.gov/vote. For more hyper-local information ahead of tomorrow's election, visit the Rapidian Voter Guide at therapidian.org/voter-guide. The Grand Rapids City Commission has approved work on the city's first long-range transportation plan. Called the Grand Rapids Mobility Blueprint, the plan will create a 20-year vision for how people and goods move safely and reliably throughout the city. It will build on the goals and community input included in the city's 2024 Community Master Plan, while taking a closer look at how transportation projects should be prioritized and funded. Over the next 2 years, the city will assess Grand Rapids' transportation network, develop concepts and cost estimates for major corridors, and create a strategy for incorporating recommended projects into future capital improvement plans. Mobility GR will also conduct 3 rounds of community engagement. Now, stay tuned for more on that. The 5th annual Clean Slate GR Expungement Fair will take place from 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Saturday, August 22nd at the MLK Community Center. The free event is open to Michigan residents who are interested in clearing eligible convictions from their criminal records. Attendees will have access to on-site attorneys, free criminal background checks, fingerprinting services, and consultations. Those who are eligible for expungement will receive the materials and assistance needed to file their applications at that event. Organizers say clearing a criminal record can help remove barriers to employment, housing, and education. Pre-registration is now open, and the city is also seeking general, notary, and attorney volunteers to help staff the event. Federal and out-of-state convictions cannot be expunged through this program. The Grand Rapids Police Department is reminding residents and businesses that regular golf carts are not legal to drive on public streets in Grand Rapids. To qualify as a street-legal low-speed vehicle, a golf cart must have required safety equipment, including headlights, turn signals, mirrors, seat belts, and a windshield, as well as a vehicle identification number, VIN number, registration, license plate, and insurance. Low-speed vehicles may not travel faster than 25 miles per hour or operate on streets with speed limits above 35 miles per hour. They also cannot be driven on sidewalks, in parks, or on other property reserved for non-motorized use. Drivers must be licensed and follow the same traffic laws that apply to other motor vehicles. Chase Bank is offering a free community workshop to help Grand Rapids residents recognize and avoid financial scams. Now, organizers say scammers are commonly use fear, urgency, or promises of a reward to pressure people into acting quickly. They may also impersonate a loved one who needs help or insist that money be sent through a particular payment method. Residents are encouraged to pause before responding to suspicious calls, texts, and emails, avoiding sharing personal information, using strong passwords, and consult someone they trust before sending money. Chase's next How to Avoid Fraud and Scams workshop will take place from 11 a.m. to noon, Thursday, August 27th, at its Knapp Corner branch. The workshop is free, but advance registration is encouraged. Read more at therapidian.org. Native and family-owned Abo Coffee Company is preparing to move from a mobile coffee cart into its first permanent storefront. Owners Ramel Matthews and Madeline Hansma plan to open the roughly 50-seat coffee shop in August at 1801 and 1803 Plainfield Avenue Northeast in the Creston neighborhood. The menu will include espresso and pour-over coffee, chai, tea, and seasonal drinks. Matthews launched Abo Coffee's handmade mobile cart earlier this year after spending 7 years working in the local coffee industry. Read more about that over at therapidian.org. Well, that's it for the city updates. For more hyper-local news from across Grand Rapids, visit The Rapidian at therapidian.org. And be sure to subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, The Current, so that you never miss a beat.
Hi, my name is Brian Cody, and I'm running for Grand Rapids Ward 2 City Commissioner. Grand Rapids is growing, and that growth brings opportunity. With that also comes real pressure. I'm running because I believe Grand Rapids has a lot of opportunity ahead, but there will also be obstacles. Ward 2 deserves leadership that is present, responsive, and practical. I grew up in Michigan's Thumb, where I learned the values that still guide me. Tell the truth, work hard, and show up for your neighbors. As a gay man who grew up in rural Michigan, I've experienced many great things, but I've also experienced hardship. Coming here with nothing, Grand Rapids has been a city that has given me opportunity. I believe in this city, and I believe in its residents. I feel the energy, I feel the love, and see the hope. Local leadership starts with presence. It starts by being in the room before you need something, when no camera is on, and when residents just want to be heard. That is the kind of commissioner I intend to be. After graduating from Central Michigan University, I got started in real estate, and over the last 7 years, I have been a renter, a homeowner, a landlord, a real estate broker, and a property manager. That experience has taught me that housing is not just policy, it is everyday life. It affects whether people can put down roots, whether a senior can remain in their neighborhood, whether a homeowner can maintain their property, and whether a tenant feels secure and can maintain a good quality of life while also affording their rent. We need more housing, and we need more creative solutions to be able to afford that housing. I'm running to answer the call, return the email, show up at the meeting, and ask the tough questions. And I know one commissioner cannot solve everything, but one commissioner can ask better questions, demand clearer answers, push for affordability, accountability, and common sense solutions. I look forward to meeting Ward 2 and city residents and hope I can count on your support.
My name is David Bulkowski, and I'm running to become the City of Grand Rapids Comptroller. Your two probably questions that come to mind are, first, who's David Bulkowski and what the is a comptroller? Well, everybody asked that question, including myself, when I was asked by both Mayor LeGrand and former Mayor Rosalind Bliss to run for this position. The comptroller basically is the internal auditor or internal watchdog for the finances of the city. It's not a policy-making role. It's a role that looks to see how well the policies have been implemented or not. As many know, the number one policy document of any organization or any government is its budget. That tells you what the priorities are, because where you spend your money is where your priority lies. So of course, I want to make sure the priorities that the citizens of Grand Rapids have set through our elected officials are being rightly acted on and with a great return on investment. So I've been of service for quite a long time. I've served in 2 other elected roles from 2001 to 2004. I was on the Grand Rapids Public School Board, and then from 2012 to 2022, I was a Kent County Commissioner representing the district that was from Easttown, East Hills, up through the Creston Neighborhood Association area. So again, I'm no stranger to public service, and I really take that service part to heart, and it's truly one of my core values. So you'll see on my website when all that stuff launches, where I've been of service, how I've been of service, and how I'll continue to be of service if I get your vote to become the comptroller.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Perdue and I'm a 3rd Ward City Commissioner, born and raised on the southeast side of Grand Rapids. This city helped shape who I am. And who I became was someone with a heart for helping and standing up for people from a very early age. I joined the Mayor's Youth Council at 16, and now, 20 years later, I'm serving in many of the same spaces where I first learned what community leadership could look like. I know this city, I love this city, and I've dedicated much of my professional career to serving people across health, education, workforce development, and local government. Over the years, I've learned that most of our biggest challenges are connected: housing, opportunity, neighborhoods, safety. And my approach to leadership in this moment is simple. We should prevent crises, not just react to them. We need long-term solutions, we need practical collaboration, and we need growth that benefits the people who already call Grand Rapids home. Because cities work best when people feel respected, involved, and able to count on their local government, as your city commissioner, I focus on housing options for all, strong neighborhoods, thriving small businesses, and safe and transparent systems. No issue is too big or too small for me to lean in on. I've worked to be an independent and caring voice at City Hall, focused on people, neighborhoods, and shared progress. I'm not interested in politics as performance. I'm interested in building a Grand Rapids where more people can thrive on their own terms. And I'm so proud of the work that we've started together. I'm asking you for your support so we can continue building a stronger Grand Rapids together. Thank you.
Plusher, and I'm running for Grand Rapids City Commission, 1st Ward. I'm a lifelong Grand Rapids resident. I was born to a working class union family and bought my first home on the west side in 2008, where I've been ever since. This is where my husband and I have settled and are raising our 2 girls, ages 16 and 2. As a mother, I'm deeply invested in making our community be the best it can be. Green spaces and protecting our environment are particularly important to me. I spend a lot of time at parks, and I want my children and yours to have access to great green spaces, clean air to breathe, and a healthy environment to live in long after I'm gone. By trade, I'm a mental health therapist. I've spent my career dedicated to bettering the lives of others. I've worked doing community counseling where I help families struggling with housing insecurity and food insecurity who are dealing with contact with law enforcement, CPS, and immigration. You can't solve a problem you don't understand, and this experience gives me knowledge of how to effectively work on these issues. As such, I'm motivated to work on creating more affordable housing and increasing home ownership opportunities, as that strengthens the stability of our neighbors. In my work at different nonprofits, I have helped program build, improve foster care standards and other practices and protocols. I've also stood up to unethical practices and kept kids safe from situations that were causing harm. Currently, I sit on the board for Mobile GR, where I'm working to improve parking and mobility, and am supporting my neighborhood association and saving a local park and school for the community. I am fluent in Spanish and actively involved in our local immigrant community, and I'm an advocate for humane and mutually beneficial treatment of our immigrant neighbors and friends. As a therapist, I work with families and couples who are often at odds and intense conflict. In our own community, there are rifts and conflicts that need healing. Listening to people, helping people learn to listen to each other and come to understanding is what I do. As a commissioner, I would utilize my skills to do just that. I am putting people before politics, and I am committed to not taking any corporate money. If elected, I would be the second woman and first fluent in Spanish to be elected to the ward. If you're interested in supporting me, please check out my socials. I am really excited to get started working on the issues we all care about.
Hello, Grand Rapids. My name is Lisa Knight, and I'm running for re-election for the 2nd Ward of the City of Grand Rapids. As a mother, a business owner, and a daughter of this city, I've worked hard to make sure that people in our community are served with dignity and respect, and that your voice is heard as we do this work in the city. I've been a servant leader most of my life, and I believe that everyone deserves an opportunity to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, however that may look for them. And listening to your voices is how we make that happen. Grand Rapids has been ranked #1 as the fastest growing U.S. metro for jobs and new talent, and we're still growing. Some of the ways that we've invested in our city and that I'm proud to have supported and voted on is investing in our workforce through negotiated wages so that our staff can support you as they do this work every day, creating more opportunities for arts, education, culture, advancing micro-local business enterprises, investing in emerging developers, approving the sale of 201 Market for the new amphitheater, where millions of dollars have gone into our affordable housing fund. We've put money into infrastructure improvements and our solar array at the Butterworth landfill. We put money into Roosevelt Park and Plaza Roosevelt improvements, money for the city's elections center. We've put money into the GRPD's mental health crisis unit and helping our neighbors have dignity and respect as they store their private items. We've put money into community project funding, such as our Butterworth Stormwater Project. We've awarded $7 million for housing and community development activities and funding for our Creston neighborhood area-specific plan. And there is more to do. There's so much more work to do and so much that we have done over these last 4 years that I look forward to your vote and your support as we continue with some continuity and the growth for the success of our city. For more ways to support, you can go to our website, email me, or shoot me a call if you'd like to have coffee sometime, and I'd be happy to chat with you. Talk to you soon.
My name is Max France, and I'm running for City Comptroller because I believe the people of Grand Rapids deserve a government that is transparent, accountable, and worthy of their trust. It has been a privilege to serve as your City Comptroller over the past 5 years, and I would be honored to earn your trust and support once again. As your Comptroller, my responsibility is to uphold our city charter, the oath of office, and deliver transparency and accountability to the people of Grand Rapids. During my time in office, I have worked to bring transparency to city finances by publishing itemized reports showing exactly where your taxpayer dollars are going. I've also worked to modernize our city government, making it more efficient when it comes to paying money owed to our residents and organizations. I've been fortunate to bring years of financial experience to City Hall to implement common sense improvements that better serve the public. The public deserves honesty, openness, and real answers from their city officials. I am committed to being that person for you. As your elected comptroller, I will continue to hold city officials accountable because accountability is not political. It is a responsibility. If our government fails to uphold required checks and balances in our city charter, I will be there to pursue accountability for the Grand Rapids public. Most importantly, I will continue to lead with integrity, putting good ethics and good governance before politics. Today, our city government faces an unprecedented challenge where unelected officials have assumed powers reserved only for an elected office. The people of Grand Rapids deserve a comptroller who will uphold our city charter. I will work to restore voter-approved checks and balances at City Hall that have been dismantled by unelected government administrators who don't answer to the people of Grand Rapids. Our residents deserve leadership committed to our governance structure enshrined in our city charter. I'm asking for your trust and support to continue serving you as your city comptroller to deliver transparency and accountability with our city government. Thank you.
My name is Steve Tibby, and I am running for the Grand Rapids City Commission, 1st Ward. I didn't wake up one day and decide to run for office, nor was this a long-term goal for me. This really comes from years of being involved in this community, working with neighborhood groups, helping local businesses, and listening to the people, and directing projects like Fans of Valley Field. I've seen firsthand how much potential we have in this city, and also where we can do better. At some point, you stop talking about it, and you decide to step up and be part of the solution. I am stepping up again and ask for you all to join me. We need more attainable housing, real options for people at different stages of life. If you grow up here, you should be able to stay here and thrive. We've had strong growth in Grand Rapids year over year, population, jobs, economic development, but we need to make sure that this growth reaches everybody in every neighborhood, not just the few. That also means being responsible with taxpayer money, making sure investments work to benefit all residents. The people who live here, play, and work in Grand Rapids want stable neighborhoods and places to gather. Connecting with our neighbors is the best way to remove stigmas and realize we are all working towards better opportunities. That means partnering with our police department and community leaders because every neighborhood is different and we can't use the same solution everywhere. At the end of the day, my motivation is for the community. The relationships we have fostered, the support we have had needed, and the sense that the city is more than just a place, it is our home. That is why I should be commissioner. I want to continue to make our home a little better every day. That is how you have sustainable progress. If you believe in what we're building, I would love your support and hope to earn your vote. Get involved. It is important that you use your voice and be a part for what you want to see in your backyard. I am going to continue working with and for this community. I hope it is as your commissioner.
And welcome back to City Connection. It's August 3rd, 2026, and we're joined today by 1st Ward Commissioner Alicia Marie Belchick. Alicia Marie, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Always glad to have you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about elections, shall we?
Yes.
It's upon us. Election day is tomorrow.
Yes.
And there are some changes in the precincts in Grand Rapids. Previously, they were 74, and now with a recent change, we're down to 59. Could you maybe walk us through that decision-making process?
Sure. So about a year ago, the city clerk presented to the city commission a slate of changes that he wanted to make. Okay. Part of this was because in like 2022, I believe, that the state legislature changed the maximum number of people that can be in a precinct. Okay. So we went from, maybe 2,500 people maximum to about a 5,000 person maximum. Now, I want to be very clear, none of the changes that we have implemented have increased the population of any precinct to that extent. They're all still around the 2,500 mark. But because that had been made, the city clerk had decided to wait until after the 2024 election to make any significant changes. As we all remember, 2024 was kind of a crazy election year, right?
Yeah.
I'm very grateful I got elected that year, but there were a lot of other things happening. And so he waited till after that election. So the following spring, I was able to weigh in as one of my first roles as a city commissioner to look at what he was proposing. Now, in the first ward, there were only a couple of minor changes. There were some precincts where they were voting in the same location. For instance, Sibley Elementary, there were 2 precincts doing that, so you had to go in one line or the other. Could cause some confusion. And with the increase and the voter turnout and the numbers, it just made more sense to put it down to 1 precinct. So it's a little bit larger geographical area, but not that many more people. And there was a couple other places in the city where that also happened. Then there were some other places where there was voting locations that were no longer available or were changing. The Adams Street Apartments was one example that was kind of up in the air and largely discussed at that time. But we have Hub 07 that's opening. And so, forecasting out into the future and what would be looking like there. And then there was a precinct change in a couple of those in the first ward that were also similar. But the long run of it is that there were a few changes, a few more changes in some wards than others because there had not been historically a lot of changes made in those wards. So they kind of caught everything up, got us back up to speed. Hopefully it's going to make voting a lot faster, quicker, more streamlined. And then as a process, though, all of the precincts across the city got renumbered. So you should have received your own voter card, a postcard, an update throughout the last year that says this is your voting location, this is where you're going to go, this is your new precinct number. If you have any questions, we have maps at the city, where you can find out exactly what your precinct number is. I will say, from those of us who are really geeky about election numbers, it makes it really hard now because the data doesn't match, right? Precinct 13 used to be this many voters, and now it might be precinct 20. I don't know. We got to line them up. So anyway, that's a little fun side story.
All right.
So go vote because it is important to vote. And
most important.
I had the opportunity to do our Ward Wednesday newsletter video. If you're not signed up for those, make sure you're doing that because every month a commissioner has a video, and mine happened to be about the elections. And I learned in this year of 250 in our independence, the Declaration of Independence was authorized by the Continental Congress on July 4th. But it was actually signed August 4th, which is going to be voting day. So go celebrate independence by voting. And then remember that a lot of these candidates will be on your ballot again in November because it is just the primary. So make sure you mark November 3rd as your next time to be casting a ballot.
All right. Hey, you heard it here first, folks. Mark those calendars. Do not forget, okay? It is not just a right, it is a privilege. We got to show up. It's very important. So let's sort of stay within the trend of voting, if you will. Fox 17 reported last week that Michigan voters are casting absentee ballots and voting early in person at record pace right now. Yeah. They're ahead of the primaries. There are more than 70,000 ballots already cast in Kent County, including more than 16,000 by Grand Rapids voters. Now, what do you think is the drive that's making this early voting happen?
Well, the truth is, and this was part of our decision making on looking at the precinct locations, more and more people are voting early by absentee ballot. And last election cycle was the first time you could vote early. Mm-hmm. And you have 10 days of early voting. I mean, it's never been more accessible and easy to get to the polls. Whatever your job schedule is, whatever your sleep schedule is, whatever your kid's schedule is, you have no excuse not to put in a ballot. And because we have no reason absentee ballots in Michigan, you can go to the city clerk even today or the Secretary of State, and you can say, I want to be on the list to be permanently on an absentee ballot. So you can turn that in. And then that goes in a drop box, which is too late to do for this election, so make sure you take it to a polling location. You can take it to the city clerk's office no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, tomorrow, the 4th. But it's just no way easier now than ever before. And so I think what we're seeing is that people in our society like convenience. And what better way, what better way to fill out your ballot and at your own kitchen table.
Yes.
It's the most accessible polling
Yes.
location. You can have your websites, you can have your literature, you can have your research right there, and you make your decisions. You can even phone a friend if you want. Nobody's going to judge.
I think that is outstanding. And accessibility is the thing we're always screaming about. So to know that that is available for our friends out here, then we should take advantage of it, y'all.
And I will say that because Michigan is such a purple state, and with as many elections that are on the line at the state and national level, you know, it's beyond the nonpartisan part.
Yeah.
We do need to make sure that, you know, people are able to vote. And it looks like Michiganders are responding. So I'm actually really proud of my home state. And just as a reminder, this is the primary, but we
Yes.
also have an important millage for the GRPS sinking fund.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
that hasn't come up, people may need to know. It's a yes or no, do it or don't do it. It's a small millage increase, so slight tax, but the money goes into a dedicated fund, AKA a sinking fund, specifically for the youth on making facilities better. So they can't touch it for other reasons, and it helps them preserve their operating budget without having to go into more bond issuance and debt.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hey,
There you go.
there you go. We're giving you all the information, folks. This should be. Look, you've just been told it's an open book test, so you know, get to the office and get your absentee ballots. All right. So we're gonna step back from voting a bit, you know, give people a chance to breathe. But we're gonna talk about another issue that we've been talking about a lot. This summer, residents have raised a lot of concerns about the noise over at the concert hall, the Acusure Amphitheater, including a lot of residents in the First Ward. Now, what have you been hearing from your constituents, and what is the city doing to address all of these concerns?
So it was a big change to our city to have an open air concert venue, and there were some kinks. I mean, we all saw that, and it was kind of in our mind ahead of time. The city manager did a pretty good job, I think, of letting us as the city staff and city commission know that this is going to be an experiment. There's going to be some time period of adjustment. However, I personally was a little surprised how much of a change happened, and I think that there may have been some, you know, just nuances that needed to be upgraded and refined during the operation process. And so early on, there was quite a lot of commotion, and it was across all the wards. It wasn't like just from one area. But I think that it's gotten significantly better. Seems to be far fewer complaints. I'm certainly receiving way fewer emails, maybe even nigh on to zero. We've had a little lull here in concerts, but I think that the feedback loop that we've had to have, because the city is sort of operating the noise ordinance and oversight, but the Convention Arena Authority are the people actually in charge. There's a whole nother body, whole nother board that is in charge of operating, and they've actually contracted out with Live Nation to do all the artists and the performances and that. So there's a whole nother set of people. So it really is a partnership between city and county and then these other entities. So we were collecting the feedback. We were sending them forward. There's a whole process the city staff had put in place to be able to capture anyone who was making a note or a complaint, and then those things were sent over. And then I think that the fact that we're not getting as many complaints or any at all at this time really suggests that they figured out there was something in the operations that wasn't quite right. Maybe it was at the sound mixing board. That's my hunch or theory, but it's just a wild, you know what, guess. And but we haven't gotten a real update. There are sound monitors that are at the location, so we will eventually, as a city, get that reporting, get the decibels and all that other stuff in the locations, but then that goes through the city staff and up through, I believe, Deputy Manager Kate Behrens before it would get presented to us as a city commission. So stay tuned. I'm hopeful that we will get a full report, but right now it seems to be acclimating into our environment. We will have the soccer stadium coming online too, and I live only a few blocks away from that, so I'm sure we're going to be hearing all sorts of new sounds in our very vibrant, convivial was my word for 2025, spontaneous social interactions kind of a city.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we will stay tuned for all things. All right. Now, the City Commission recently approved a revised agreement with Grand Rapids Public Schools governing the maintenance and programming of jointly used facilities. Now, what does that agreement cover, and what will change for any of our residents?
Well, I'm really happy to be talking about this because this is one of these little known but very important, in my opinion, policy contractual things that we can do as a public entity. So the school system is a public entity, the city is a public entity, and we have historically for however many decades, let's say 50, I don't know exactly, have had a reciprocal agreement where we use your facilities and then sometimes they use our facilities. That could be including, Hausman Field is a city-owned property, but they use it for their school football fields and stuff. So we use very many schools for polling locations. We just talked about that. We use schools for commission night out and other engagement activities, including when we have things that need to be talked about for, community engagement on important decisions. So it's important that we have a reciprocal agreement like that. What's new this year is that as a commission, we're very aware of the changing dynamics of our city. We have properties that the school wants to sell, needs to sell perchance for their budget, and we have a land bank now as a city, which is only a year old, and hopefully will be funded in the near future so that we can be able to acquire properties. And then we will be able to actually play a more active role in the developing game to maybe dictate how and where and what kind of housing is built, and maybe even encourage some, 60% AMI or even more attainable. But we can't do that without an agreement. So right now, the agreement is a first right of offer, which is a little tricky, but basically it has a whole chunk in there in this agreement that says the city and the school agree that if there's going to be an offer of property, the city or the school, the partner, can have an offer as a first right.
That's excellent. That is excellent. I'm glad we are finding ways to bridge gaps where we can. That's wonderful. So we have one other thing we definitely want to talk about. The story about Police Chief Joe Trigg and him recently presenting a review of GRPD's K-9 deployment practices to public safety following the February 18th death of DeQuayne Johnson, who was apprehended by a police dog before being fatally shot by an officer. Now, what changes to the department's K-9 practices are being considered, and do you believe that GRPD's policy needs to be changed?
So this has been one of many moving parts that I want people to understand. The death of anybody is a tragedy, and I really want to say once again to all those affected, to his mom, to his family, it's a tragedy, and we're very sorry. I'm very, very sad. However, the police are still doing a job, right? So we as a city, and through the city manager, have been fairly responsive, I believe, in a way that maybe hasn't always been there. And it's hard to see when you're just a regular community member, so I feel incumbent upon me to highlight it. He was very quick, knowing that our commission and those of us sitting up there care a lot about these kind of issues. He was very quick to say, okay, let's have a review. And so we've been reviewing the police officer involved shootings. We've been reviewing the dog K-9 policy and use, and how does that fit into use of force. And so the Office of Public Accountability actually did a full benchmarking between our policies for the K-9 in particular and for other cities similar size and slightly larger, slightly smaller, and came up with a list of recommendations and whatnot. Now, at the last these have been presented at the Public Safety Committee. So again, I like to remind folks we have a distributed decision-making system in the city. So you're going to need to pay attention to which committee shows which. But public safety is online on all our YouTube channels, and you can go back and watch these reports as they're presented. And the agenda packets are all available with the presentations as well. And so you can see line by line, Deputy Chief P.J. Baker actually did the response on behalf of Chief Trigg, who was there, and said, with all of his years of running the K-9, here's where it fits into our policies of police, here's where it fits into Michigan policy, here's how we categorize it, which it turns out they do consider it a use of force, even though that's not required by any of their certifications. And so they have a use of force sign in and, process for that. Now, the Public Safety Committee pushed back quite a lot, asked a lot of questions, so I think it was a very robust conversation, and it is one that we will continue to be having, because some places they lined up, some places maybe some refinement. Overall, I will be looking for that committee to make some strong recommendations, and then hopefully bring that to the City Commission for us to actually make policy choices and decisions.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Alicia Marie, for taking my questions. But it is time for us to get ready to take another break. When we return, we will be answering questions from viewers like you. So to take part in this conversation, send a question to cityconnection@grcmc.org or submit a question through the Rapidian's Instagram story @TheRapidian. Welcome back to City Connection. It's August 3rd, 2026, and we're back with First Ward Commissioner Alicia Marie Belchick.
Hi.
During this part of the show, we will be taking questions from the viewers, starting with a question from Kay. There have been a number of noise complaints about the Acrisure Amphitheater. We just talked about it. Now, does the city anticipate getting noise complaints from the new Amway Stadium? And are there lessons that have been learned from the amphitheater that can be applied to the stadium?
Kay's a thinking woman, I can tell.
I like it, Kay. I like it.
Thank you very much for the question. So, like everything, this is going to be a big experimental phase. I personally feel like I live close enough to the stadium, I'm going to be hearing it. But it is a different kind of experience than it will be, because it's not so much maybe amplified sound for a duration, boom boxes and all the other things that go along with a concert. Now, if they start to do concerts at the Amway Stadium, I could see that being an issue with but the roof is a different shape, different things like that. Fireworks are going to probably go off there, so I expect that to be something we hear. So I can't predict the future. I wish I could, otherwise I'd probably be a billionaire by now. But I do think that we can probably use the same process that we've established to some extent for collecting and, reviewing comments. And then we will continue to do our best with our community partners, because remember, these are built with private partners as well as public. And so we have a responsibility as a city to hold our partners accountable for making sure that our city is still livable, while also in welcoming guests, residents, and anyone else who's a sports fan. I'm not a soccer fan, I know, a sad story, but I hope that it's thriving and that it doesn't, it adds to our community and the richness rather than take away. But the lessons learned are going to be mostly in streamlining the communication, I think, because again, just the features and the sound system and everything's probably totally different.
Absolutely, absolutely. So hey, folks, if you hear things, say things.
311 is your one-stop call to City Hall. I did not come up with that.
But it's nice to have in the back pocket. Good
Yeah.
one. All right. So our next question is coming from Reddit. Are corridor improvement authorities on the west side less involved than others in town? I feel like I see more facade changes, parking updates, streetscape work happening in other parts of the city than I do on the west side. Am I missing it? Or do CIAs function differently across the city?
So the answer is, to the last part, yes. They function very differently across the city in different ways. Now, I will push back that the idea of a corridor improvement authority on the west side is not doing things, because it's actually one of the leaders, and it's one of the more well-funded ones. What you may be noticing is it's been maybe smaller projects have been done over the last 10 or 15 years, and now maybe it's bigger projects that are taking time to come to fruition. So also, we're a growing CIA here on the west side. And so it encompasses Fulton Street, Leonard Street, and Bridge Street, with a connector through, I think, is it Seward? Anyway,
Seward,
there's a bunch of connections. It's actually really big. And you're going to be noticing some very exciting changes that have been in the works for 3, maybe 4 years coming. So there's your little hint. But the West Side CIA, again, Corridor Improvement Authority, collects business tax dollars on business properties in the corridor to make improvements to business districts. And that often goes back into facade improvement and things like that. Streetscapes, the trash bins on Leonard Street that have been recently added were a long time push by West Grand Neighborhood Organization and are partly funded by the Corridor Improvement Authority tax dollars. So when you're thinking about how these places function across the city, it's very, very different depending on how many businesses are there, how many tax dollars can be captured, and how many people are participating in the board and making active decisions and having committees. So this is another place where distributed decision making is happening. So keep an eye out. We've got gateway signs coming. They will be your welcome from downtown into the west side from wherever people are coming over at Leonard, Bridge, and Fulton. And they it's a $1.2 million project. So this is what's happening right now. But other areas, say South Division, Granville, they're very much still needing to do the day-to-day windows, doors, and facade improvement. And, you know, I happen to sit on that board as well. So it's just different. And then if you're really looking at neighborhood investment and neighborhood improvements, you've really got to go to your neighborhood associations. That's not what the CIA is for.
There you go.
That was a long answer, sorry. Read it.
But still an important one. So, our next question comes from Trina. I'm worried about voter fraud. How can we be sure our vote is being counted? Does the city have precautions they are taking to make sure that my vote doesn't get stolen?
This is a crazy awesome question because this is like top of mind for everyone, Trina. So the interesting thing is our city clerk is the man in charge of making sure that no votes get stolen and that every vote gets counted exactly as it should be. If you want, in the off season when they're not so busy, they actually will do tours of how they lock the boxes and how they check the machines and how they do all the different steps. There's an actual chain of command for every ballot that goes into a machine and who's in charge of that precinct and who hands off that box to the next person so they can track it all the way through. And then furthermore, every person's signature is checked when you come to the polling location or on your absentee ballot. And this is verified against what your signature looks like with the Secretary of State where you registered to vote. And so if you even change a little bit of your signature, it will get potentially flagged. This happens a lot in petition signatures. A lot of candidates have to get signatures to get on the ballot. You may have ballot initiatives, and they will kick out things that don't quite match. Even if you put a heart on your eye this time and last time you didn't, it's like, nope, not the same signature. So remember that when you're doing those things. But the other part of that is if signatures don't match, this happens actually a lot, where a college kid is living in Grand Rapids, but maybe they're from Detroit. And mom back in Detroit gets the absentee ballot.
Right.
And it's like, oh, I don't want my kid not to vote. I'll do the voting for them and send it in. Meanwhile, the kid votes here in town, and you would think that would be a double vote. No, because it gets caught by the system, and they actually get flagged. And I'm just going to say, mom to mom, don't do that because that's actually voter fraud. You could go to jail or something. So we all want our kids to vote, but let them do it.
Yes.
So I have a very, very, very high degree of confidence that every vote will be counted. There are no stolen votes. There are no fabricated votes. And when you look at the statistics nationwide and certainly locally, it's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of a percent. Like you're looking at 0.00001% or something like that. So
Perfect.
Hope that instills some confidence. Take your ballot right in, feed it to the box. You'll know that it won't get lost.
Absolutely. So the main point, vote. Get out and vote.
Yes.
So our next question, and we're only going to take a couple more, also comes from Reddit. When the community tells you no on flock safety cameras, the council talks about policy. Not only does your policy not justify your surveillance of the community, it also does not forbid you from taking action. Why have you failed to take any action on this?
So flock cameras always come up. I've never had an interview conversation that didn't. And I get emails on the regular about it. So I do know it's a big concern. I myself want to make sure our privacy is kept, that, I don't even have a Ring camera, you know? People don't even realize that those Ring cameras get fed into the sisters of the company that then owns Flock. So
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying know your facts. We all are participating in this so-called surveillance state in some way, shape, or form. We've got our phones on, all these things. The idea that we're not being tracked is probably not a realistic thing. I mean, how else do they know that I don't know, back to school supplies? I'm just kidding, I don't. We're ready for summer to continue.
Now, trust me, your algorithm is going to have backpacks in about an hour.
But the truth is, Flock isn't just the only system. There's a lot of systems, and we have an AI and surveillance policy. I just did a nice long email to a gentleman who was asking about these things. And, you know, here's where the last review was, here's what was included, here's what wasn't. Every instance has to be authorized. So the disconnect that people are feeling is that there are two sets of policies, and I want to make sure this is clear. One is citywide council policies, city commission policies, and the other is police policies. And the city commission doesn't necessarily weigh in on police policy because that is done in-house and through the city manager. Now, we can absolutely, with the right political willpower, put more pressure on the city manager to review those things and to make sure that we are getting a full briefing and update. So I do think that there can be more. But again, why have we not acted sooner? I'm just going to remind everyone, I'm 18 months in. We've got an election. We're going to have a new person. We need to have our votes on the commission with the right similar-minded people to be able to make the conversation move forward. And I also want to push back just a little because as a person who hears a lot about things from the community, there's often in Grand Rapids circles within circles and circles that never touch circles. And a lot of times we're talking about the power structure, but it also happens in our communities. So just because a bunch of people feel a certain way, we as electeds also hear from people who are on the other side. So we actually have to work to balance the trade-offs in a lot of different ways. How do we have a safe community? That's the real question. Do we need to have Flock cameras every place? Probably not. Do we need to have them where we know there's some untoward activity? Yeah, they work, you know? So to be continued, an ongoing discussion, tricky things. I'd like to see a full review though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so here's our last question from Percy. It seems like the city's policy for the arena and the soccer stadium is something to the tune of, you live in a city, you'll learn to deal with the change. I personally am looking forward to moving out of the first ward because there doesn't seem to be much response to the concerns I've brought to the city on these issues. When I leave a message or send an email to the city, how do I know they're actually reaching commissioners or committee members, not just being tracked as a data point? And we only have like 1 minute left.
Yeah, that's a good question because, first of all, I'm really sad to hear you don't want to live in the first ward because that's where I love to live. But I really also feel like this idea, like live in the city, get used to it, is more coming from the community because I saw some of those Facebook posts. I saw some of the comments. There are people who are very jaded out there and just like get used to it. Having been a person who lived in New York City, however, we have a really great Midwestern town, I'm going to say. So how do you know? Sometimes we are able to reply if we're not overwhelmed and busy. Sometimes we are able to forward it on to the right staff that then you might get a reply back. But when it comes to the volume we were receiving, specifically about the amphitheater, there was just no way there was going to be time for everybody to do it. So you're going to have to just trust a little bit that we were forwarding those on and that they were being tracked. Now, if it's a different situation, I try to have monthly coffee hours, or I just had a happy hour at Blue Dog last month. And I'm going to be having another one on August 27th around 5 o'clock. Come out to Clemente Park. We're going to have meet your commissioner, cool down with the commissioners. County Commissioner Morales and myself will be there. And it's a time where we can actually have these one-to-one conversations in a streamlined fashion because it is just a part-time job, believe it or not. So hang in there and reach out. I will respond.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Alicia Marie, for being here. And hey, y'all, that's all the time we have for today. We want to say thank you to our guests for coming in and sharing all those insights. And thank you, all of you at home, for tuning in and sending your questions. Now, don't forget, you can always catch rebroadcasts through August on cable GT cable GRTV's Channel 25 or the GRTV YouTube page. We will see you next month, Grand Rapids.